when I first decided to take this job on, I must admit I didn't really realise just how much work it was actually going to be. There's an awful lot to do in a garden when you're, particularly when it's this sort of size. There's everywhere you look, there's something that needs doing, and it's. I think I mentioned yesterday or last time. It's all on a sort of industrial scale at the moment. I mean, I've got piles and piles of prunings that I've taken off trees. That I need to start to find some way of getting rid of them. I can have a bonfire here, that's not a problem, but it's all organising and making sure you don't set fire to anything else that you don't really want to be setting fire to, and just getting it down there as well. There's so much to do in quantity. That's the thing. I'll get a process. I'll get it all sorted out at some point. I'll work out how this is all supposed to happen and start to make it flow at some point. But I'm not quite there yet. One of the first things I'm going to have to do around here is get rid of all the ivy off some of the trees, because the trees that are here are slowly being eaten by large quantities of ivy. It's just tying itself around it and weighing them down. So I've been doing that thing that they do in woodlands and sort of cut a chunk of it off. A friend of mine describes it as being like a vasectomy. They cut a little tube out of a little section out of the trunk, and then just let the top bit sort of die off. Some bits I've done a little while ago. And actually pulled a bit of the ivy down, and as you can see up there, it's starting to die back, and that's quite nice. This one over here I only did a couple of days ago, so it hasn't had a chance to die off yet. And I'm not 100% sure I've got all of the trunks yet, but that's something I need to do. And then the other thing, if I can step back without falling over everything, is that some of these trees, because of the ivy, they're being pulled down and weighted down, so they're growing into other trees which should be sort of below them and growing up. It's all it all needs a bit of sort of heavy duty pruning. And that mahonia over there definitely needs to be shrunken, because it's sort of growing a little bit out of control at the moment. It's tall and it's gangly, and it needs a bit of shaping, I think. Now, this is where it all goes a bit wrong, because I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing when it comes to pruning things. My father's approach to pruning things usually involved a chainsaw, so I'm sort of following on from that a little bit and seeing what happens, on the basis that there's a lot of trees here, and if I do accidentally manage to nuke a couple of them, then, well, there's at least a spare standing next to it. But I think with a lot of Googling and a lot of sort of paying attention, I should be able to work out what I can trim and what I can't, and when is the best time of year to do it. Now, obviously, with things like the mahonia, that's a little confusing, because the first lot of websites I looked at said, oh, you don't need to prune a mahonia, they just sort of sort themselves out, they're okay. Then it also said it grows to 2 meters tall. Well, this one's like 3 and a bit, and all of the leaves are at the top, and it's growing through a pine tree, so I need to get it a little bit better than that and get it a little bit lower. And then I finally found another website that said you can prune them any time of year, but particularly just after they finish flowering. Well, that's now. So that mahonia is going to get shrunken today. As far as the trees go, I think I'm just going to have to go for it and see what happens. The cherry laurel doesn't seem to mind. Again, a bit of Googling seems to suggest that if you cut them off just after the flowering, it keeps their shape. Well, this one, I want to change its shape. I want it to grow up a bit and have more leaves at the top, and some of those leaves at the bottom that are growing up, I want them to bush out. So again, I cut it back yesterday, day before, a couple of days ago anyway. So I cut it back a couple of days ago to hopefully encourage it to change its shape a little bit. I will let you know what happens It's because it's anyone's guess, to be honest, right now, as to whether I'm doing the right thing. But you know, like I said, the whole point of this exercise is to learn. And if anyone manages to learn from any of my mistakes, then that's useful. That'll be good. This one behind me, if you can see it, yeah, this one behind me, I'm going to be, that's going to be coming out because I need to replace that, and I'm putting a different shed in there for reasons. I'll explain all about that. In fact, if you go and look at the website, you'll probably work out why I'm putting another big shed there. But that will be a lovely little thing which will blend into the garden and into its surroundings, and I'll plant things all around it, and it'll be a really nice little space. Yeah, so today I'll probably be doing some tree pruning. I'll try and film a bit of that while I'm doing it. Not sure how to do that yet, but we'll work on that. So yeah, see you in a minute, hopefully with some tree pruning equipment. The wonderful joys of it being April are that obviously the weather has now changed completely, and it's now a lot colder than it was a few minutes ago. So actually meet this chap here. Hello. Hi. Yeah, I don't have a dog, but I do borrow one occasionally. If you've seen any of my tango videos, then you'll recognise him as the tango dog. He's been in lots of videos over the years. He might be wandering around, although he's on a lead, so he shouldn't get too tangled up. Yeah, anyway, yeah, April. So now it's obviously a lot colder than it was like half an hour ago. But I'm still going to prune this tree. And now, this thing here is my favourite tool when it comes to pruning tall trees. I love this thing. It's like a big clampy secateur thing right on top of a very long pole with a handle. And that's great because it really helps you get up and prune up where you need to be pruning, right up into the tree without climbing ladders and things. Love it. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to have a go at pruning some stuff, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I've got no idea what you can actually see and what's going on, but hopefully you can get some idea of what it's like using this gadget, which is very cool. I can cut bits of ivy off there. You can use it to grab as well if you don't grip too hard. You can just pull bits out. Use it as a hook. So open it up and then cut. I have to get the angle just right, otherwise it doesn't work. There somewhere. There we go. Yeah, I think as I mentioned earlier, the ivy has really got involved in this tree. And really starting to cause problems with it. This has pulled a lot of this down. Anyway, I'll carry on with this and I'll show you what it's like when I'm finished. Okay, so I've cleared a lot of that away now. I'm going to stop there for a bit, I think, and just let that breathe. I need to also get in there and get that vine out at some point, but I want to try and work out what it is before I start removing it completely, because there's an awful lot of it. Here we go, look at all those trunks. It grows all the way up and up and up and through and through, and yeah, I want to know whether I want to keep it or not before I start pruning too much more with that. Right, now, so next on the list is that Mahonia. That was very, very tall, and so I'm going to prune that out a bit. If I start with the bit that's up there, and they mainly just leave this big clump here in the middle. So I'm hoping to cut it off about there, which I think will be about right. And for that, I have this. This is one of these little extendable saws. They're quite hard to do one-handed. But, yeah, pruning saw. You pull with it, you don't push, you pull. And it just makes it a little bit easier to cut at arm's length. Okay, so if I can cut this off about here, I'll get rid of this chunk that's out here. It's a bit of an undercut to make sure it doesn't split back and damage the rest of the plant. There we go. Shame you can't take cuttings of that, really. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. So either this afternoon or tomorrow morning I will get the shredder out and I'll start to turn this lot into wood chipping, so I've got somewhere to put it. I might have a go at that pile down the bottom as well. You saw it as we were walking down on the history and the tour video that I did the other day. But yeah, the difference that that's making already, just a bit of pruning, a bit of cleaning out and getting rid of some of the ivy, the light that's getting into here is so much better. I don't want ground level fences, that's ridiculous. And ideally, once everything started to grow properly, it'll fill in all underneath these. So there's a little bit more screening from next door. But even with these big trees here, it's the denseness of the ivy in the middle of the ones on my border that's that's really killing the light. And that massive one in the background, you can see it there, can't you? But that's too far away. But that once the ivy's gone out of there, and the same with this one, yeah, the difference will be amazing. And this little one here, this little slightly better angle on this little ornamental cherry, Prunus jasmine, I think this one. Jasmine? Sounds right. Yes, it's yeah, it's supposed to have really nice coloured leaves in the autumn and flowers well in the spring. But I planted it just after spring, so I haven't seen the flowers yet. There's one right at the top. But that's it. So next year, hopefully, lots and lots of flowering.